Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm pleased that the committee is holding this hearing to examine President Biden's 2022 budget request. And thank you, Mr. Secretary, for taking time to appear before the committee today. Mr. Secretary, a lot has happened in the homeland since you first appeared before this committee back in March. Unfortunately, a lot of it has been anything but encouraging. So I look forward to talking about those challenges and how we can work together. I also hope to soon be conducting these hearings in person, and I'm very encouraged by I'm very encouraged by to have these hearings in person. I'm also very encouraged that the chairman has noted that that's going to be happening soon. Today, we have a full complement of Republican members here who are ready to make room on the dais and work alongside our Democratic colleagues to conduct the important work of this committee in a bipartisan manner. Mr. Secretary, I don't envy the job you have today. The President has submitted the largest budget request by far in the history of the United States, $6 trillion. Sadly, if this fiscally irresponsible budget is enacted, our children and our children's children, at a minimum, will be paying for it, a burden we should not place on future generations. And despite its high price tag, this budget request is out of touch with reality and, more importantly, fails to prioritize many of today's most pressing homeland security threats. To give you a few examples, the Department of Homeland Security is asking for $76 million for electric vehicles, but there are no additional appropriations requested for new Border Patrol agents. And CBP's net discretionary budget has a reduction of $280 million. Overall, the fiscal year 2022 budget asks for less than 0.5% of an increase for three key Homeland Security law enforcement components: Customs and Border Patrol, ICE, and the Coast Guard. When proposed funding for pay increases is set aside, these three agencies show a decrease from their enacted levels in their fiscal year 2022 requests. On the cyber front, the budget requests a 29% increase for the Department of Energy cyber activities, but only a 6% increase for CISA. The Biden budget simply fails to reflect the priorities that are critical to the defense of the homeland, and so I do not envy you having to come before the committee and defend this request on behalf of the administration. Honestly, just don't know how it is possible to spend that much money on a grab bag full of far-left proposals while somehow neglecting to adequately defend the homeland, particularly given the rash of major cyber attacks we've had recently. Mr. Secretary, unfortunately, since you were last before the committee, the crisis at the border has not gotten better. In fact, it is trending worse. Just last week, Customs and Border Patrol announced that over 180,000 migrants were encountered along the southwest border in the month of May alone, including 121,000 single adults, over 44,600 family units, and over 14,000 unaccompanied minors. We have also become numb to these numbers, but they continue to be staggering. The 180,000 number represents a 675% increase. And let me say that again, 675% increase from May of 2020. Despite these numbers, by eliminating border wall funding, President Biden is allowing cartels, smugglers, criminals, and traffickers to continue exploiting the border. And sadly, neither the president nor the vice president has even bothered to visit the border. In fact, in a recent interview, Vice President Harris laughed off the idea, even though, in theory, President Biden has put her in charge of the crisis. This is not a laughing matter. One aspect of this crisis that has been highlighted and truly makes every state a border state is the explosion of illegal drugs that have been streaming across the border. This particularly impacts my district in central New York and so many other communities across this country. According to Customs and Border Patrol, drug seizures were up 18% in May from April of 2021. Methamphetamine seizures were up 53%. Heroin seizures were up, and so was fentanyl. There's been enough fentanyl across the border this year already to kill every man, woman, and child in the United States. Try and digest that. Customs and Border Patrol continues to see an alarming surge in fentanyl seizures at 56% higher than May of 2021, than all of 20, and through May of 2021 through, let me rephrase that, which are 56% higher through May of fiscal year 21 than all of fiscal year 20. This means that more than 600 pounds of deadly fentanyl was seized every month for the last 12 months, and that is a record. In the last 6 months alone, Border Patrol seized 5,400 pounds of fentanyl, enough lethal doses to kill 1.2 billion people, or the entire population of the United States more than 3 times over. More than 90,000 Americans died of overdoses between September 2019 and September 2020. Last year, drug overdose deaths rose by more than 27% in New York State alone. That's completely unacceptable, and Homeland Republicans will continue pressuring the administration to reverse its disastrous executive orders and work with us on stronger border security measures. Mr. Secretary, the last time you were here, I stated that I did not want to be a bomb thrower, but wanted to work with you on solutions, and that offer remains. I have introduced several bipartisan bills, including H.R. 2321, that would require Homeland Security and federal partners to establish an agile plan to respond to irregular migration surges with benchmarks in place for activation. This legislation has received bipartisan support in the Senate, and a Senate companion is coming soon. I would ask that you look at this legislation, as I believe it is a common sense approach to at least our frontline law enforcement and management the crisis at the border. While the President's request makes modest increases to CISA's budget, CISA needs sustained, robust funding to carry out its mission and nimbly respond to evolving threats. In the past 6 months, CISA has worked to mitigate multiple significant cyber incidents facing federal networks, as well as a sharp increase in devastating ransomware attacks on our nation's critical infrastructure. Unfortunately, ransomware attacks are becoming a more pervasive threat, and I feel that we as a country continue to fall further and further behind, and we continue to play defense instead of being on offense when we're at our strongest. I'm concerned that the President's budget included a sharper increase for other federal cybersecurity efforts, but not CISA, especially given the attacks CISA is tasked to defend. How can CISA be expected to continue to address these cyber threats head-on with such a small budget, given that the global financial impact of these cyber attacks amounts to over $1 trillion annually? Try to digest that. Over $1 trillion annually is the cost of these cyber attacks, and we're not really doing much about it with CISA. You have also acknowledged that CISA needs to be the quarterback of the .gov domain, and I appreciate that, and I fully agree, but this budget fails to do that. I believe that CISA needs to be a $5 billion agency in 5 years, and that is not going to happen with meager increases like you propose in this budget. I look forward to hearing from the Secretary today, but like I said, I do not envy his job. This budget proposal manages to somehow be incredibly bloated, while at the same time lack the funding we need to protect the homeland. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.